Thank you for tuning in to Music Men in My Mental. I am your host, DeVone. We're doing all things in your career, your relationships, and your overall health, how to balance this out, how to have some purpose around here. So before we begin, I'd like to check in. Let's see how balanced we're feeling today. And, with me, I try to go every week and what's going on? Is it the career? Is it the relationship? Where's my energy going towards? Is it my health? Am I feeling out of whack? And, some episodes ago, I was like, you know what? Relationships was just dragging me down. So I shifted my energy towards my career. This week, the career is kind of just like, been on my mind. What's next? What's happening? And I shifted on really working out. Like I actually am looking for a new therapist. I'm about to finalize getting a new therapist because I just felt like I needed a little bit more from my therapist. So that's where I'm at. So let's check in with ourselves, see how balanced we feel and what we can do. Maybe one thing to make us feel a little bit more balanced today. Now let's go into my guest. I'm so excited. She's my friend, but you guys are going to get to know her in a special way because she's doing big things around here. You know what I mean? I like that. Not only is she funny, but okay, I'm going to read her bio and then I'm going to go into why this bio, I was like, did you take this off a dating profile? Because this is hilarious. She goes, 15-year Brooklynite and Howard University grad. Heather Romantini is currently a senior talented. That's what I get.
Senior and I'm talented. I'm old.
Heather Romantini is currently senior talent producer, managing all talent partnerships for Warner Media's Bleacher Report, which is dope. And Heather has over 20 years experience as a talent and media specialist, working in sports and entertainment. She's worked for companies like ESPN, Fox Sports Complex, Disney, working on television, digital content awards, and social media engagements. Prior to going to Turner Family at the Bleacher Report, she was doing talent relations at the Essence Festival this year, the 25th anniversary. And she says she equally enjoys travel, world traveling, using rap lyrics on her captions on IG, rubbing elbows with influencers, and also loving on her niece in Charlotte and hanging with her besties and buying sneakers.
And my nephew. Don't leave him out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ace is the kind of kid that'll write that down and come back later like, so you said on a podcast in 2019, loving on your niece, and I am your nephew, and I want to know what that was about.
He wants to know why. He is so cute. Oh, my God.
He's crazy.
Listen, shout out to everyone. We are the real aunties in here because we have all the nieces and nephews.
11 godchildren.
You have 11 godchildren?
Mm-hmm.
People must really like you because they don't trust me with all them kids.
I don't have kids and they think I have money.
Well, reading your bio, this explains. They're like, Heather has money, ESPN. Let me go on a Glassdoor and check up the...
What does a senior
So the thing about you and why I wanted you on the show is I think you are so resilient. Like you can just get through everything. I mean, sometimes you just shock me as a friend, as a person. And I've seen you from bartending in a little spot in Brooklyn, or you'll go to just a spot where you know you're going to make money because you're a hustler like that. Like the most unconventional spots. I'm like, what in the Bushwick is going on here? And
I was gonna say you're generous when you said a little neighborhood spot.
I was
in the ghetto, in the hood,
in the
and by
ghetto.
Little spot, she means a dive hole in the wall where you may or may not get shot.
Where you may or may not, and I would show up and try to support, and I'm like, okay, what is it like the color purple when the fight's about to break out and they put down the piano?
Cool in the gang was packing shit up.
So, but I've seen you, be a bartender and now just running Essence Fest, being the plug at Essence Festival, by the way, just running things. And now new to the Bleacher Report. Come on, give yourself a round of applause for that. There you go. So just tell us a little bit about your career, just to start.
Okay, so I started at Howard. I interned for Radio 1, and when my mother passed away, I had to leave for the semester from the internship. And when I came back, they moved me into, I was in sales, and they moved me into promotions at WKYS and Radio 1 station. And I had a really good mentor at Radio 1 who was the promotions director, and I was dealing with talent and engaging with them, and I enjoyed it. And she was very nurturing and embracing. Shout out to Dion. And I learned a lot through her about working with talent, and it was fun and quick and engaging, and just how you were able to use your relationships to make things happen and to interface with these seemingly untouchable people. This was before like social media and all that.
Right.
Right. So it was interesting. And I had an uncle who was in radio, who was big in radio in Philly. And that was always interesting. You know, like that was our celebrity, you know, and going to my cousin's wedding and Patti LaBelle was there, like, you know, that type of thing. It was like, ooh, you know, we famous. So it was always a little bit intriguing to me. And then that was when I was at ESPN Zone working as a waitress, and I was interning at Radio 1, and a mentor there, Chantre Kamak, who is in charge of all talent for ESPN, I moved to New York, wanted to be with my boyfriend when I graduated from Howard, transferred through the ESPN Zone from the one in DC to the one in New York. I sent one of those mass emails like, hey, happy holidays to all my contacts. Just want to, let you know what I'm up to. And she was like, oh my God, you're in New York. I have a position at ESPN. And this is December 2005. And I started working as a talent coordinator at ESPN in 2005. And she really, really, really taught me, was super generous in what she taught me, but also very tough. So I learned how to dot every I and cross every T and be really, really buttoned up, and then how to do everything from soup to nuts. And I think that really strong foundation led me to do talent on my terms from then until now, 14 years later.
Wow. So the funny thing, we used to have this joke, like, what does Heather do?
Oh, no, I'm Tommy. They call me that. Like my real friends. They're like, she don't find no job.
I consider myself a real friend. We've been around each other for many, many years. And it's funny because, I definitely knew what you did, but we would go out and it's like, what the hell does Heather do? I think now people are like, oh, she really has a job now.
Well, now I really do have a job. To give you some context, I started my own company in 2013. So I was working, I did a few other things too in between, from ESPN. And then when I started my company, I worked for a global advertising firm for 4 years in-house. I just felt like my life was slipping away from me as a 20-something. And I'm sitting in this desk day in and day out, managing calendars and scheduling meetings. And it just wasn't fulfilling me. And I made good money, but as a relatively young person, but I just felt like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And life, like I said, was just slipping away. So after my father passed in 2013, and I had time and opportunity, and I had gotten laid off in February. He passed away in April. So now it's like, okay, well, I have this time and I have this opportunity. I have some loose ends to tie up and, affairs to settle. I can figure stuff out. So as right around the same time, Fox was looking to launch Fox Sports 1. And I partnered with Nick Zaccanino, who was another great mentor in my life. And he hired me to be the talent producer for the only New York-based show that ran through Fox Sports 1. Okay. So I started my company. Nick hired my company under his company. And I started talent booking as a freelancer through Nick and his company and my company. And then from there, just kind of springboarded. I was able to go through NFL Sunday Ticket with DirecTV, AT&T, and then even Complex, Essence Festival. All of these were contracts under my own company. And what that means at a very high level is you retain a large majority of your money, just tax-based. And you're non-exclusive and you make your own terms. I worked from home a large portion of the time. I worked from Bali. I worked from Nigeria. I worked from my sister's living room when she had baby 1 and 2. The beauty of that is that I got my time back and I was able to make a great deal of money doing something I really enjoyed. from whatever location I wanted to be in. And I literally got to travel the world and spend important time with my family, figure out what was important to me, what I wanted to do. And now fast forward to 2019, for the first time in 7 years, I'm back in-house full-time as a staff member for Bleacher Report under Turner.
I mean, hello.
Yes.
Look at that.
Yes.
I feel like this is the first time you've actually told this story right now.
It is. I haven't.
Oh my.
And I haven't even sent the email or announced the thing. I haven't put it on my social.
Wait a second. This is kind of breaking news. Thank you.
You got the exclusive.
That's amazing. And it just goes straight into, two topics actually, is to find that balance and to just be mature enough to say, I want to live in my 20s and my 30s a little too. We want to actually have some social life, and then you see people in their 40s and their 50s who haven't lived their lives, and now they're wilding out because they haven't had a chance to do that. Sometimes at Essence Festival, we be seeing some of the people, they're like, dang.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a wellness check on me.
We're not talking about that yet.
Oh, okay.
We will get into that. But a couple points that you brought up is your relationships is what really got you the jobs most places, and relationships are
1,000%.
so important.
1,000%.
It's not about just what this show is about is your career, your relationships, and overall health, but your relationships start with 1, how you talk to yourself, 2, how you talk to just your friends, and then the other stuff is the sexual relationships, the physical relationships, because you need to have those intact first before you can really move on to the other, the loves and the marriage. I think because you know how to talk to people.
If that's your goal.
If that's, hey, that may not be your goal. We'll go into that too. Relationships, but just also that you were smart enough and early enough to identify I want to move at a different pace than most people, because, some people are just not fortunate enough to do something like that. But you were really, I don't know how you even thought of that in your, and your 20s to be like, I'm just going to start my company and then let it.
In all honesty and fairness, I was in my 30s, and it's just other people who I knew who had done that. And I'm like, well, why not? There's a way to, my accountant is really the one who set the tone for that. He was like, you got to start, a company or something, because you're making a lot of money and you're paying a lot of taxes, and I started an S Corp. A lot of people do an LLC. There's do your research, know what's best for you. I started an S Corp just for that purpose. And then I was like, oh, that means I can go do all these projects without having to be in-house, and I can work for multiple people at one time. I can hire people under myself if I want. So, and again, in my 30s. So I decided in my 20s that I was hating the trajectory of my life, and I hated clocking in, sitting at my desk for 9 hours a day. And it took until I was in my 30s to do that, which I'm okay with. Everybody does different things on at their own time, in their own place. And to say that also, don't ever hesitate if you're even super young to do things that you feel like aren't supposed to happen until you're older. It's different timelines for different people.
Different timelines for different people. There, you're already dropping the gems. Okay, that's what we're here for. So, one thing, we spoke about offline is you lost your parents, both your parents, and that plays a big role in, you already are just a fireball and a personality in your own, but it has to have shaped you so much, and dealing with loss and dealing with how you move in just relationships and how you can move from things so differently than most people. And, you said something before to me, I've lost a lot. So sometimes I can just move a little bit more swift because I've lost 2 people I love so close to me, Can you just go into that and just
and it changes,
Yeah.
I was 23 when my mother passed away, and I had a younger sister. My sister was 16, about to be 17 or 17 at the time. And then I lost my dad. what is it, 2000, I guess I would have been 35 when my dad passed away. And that experience, my mother had breast cancer. We knew she was sick, but still I was away at school. So I didn't see the progression of her illness. And it wasn't very tangible and real to me that this was imminent. I think my sister had a little bit more of an idea that it was. So it was still a shock to me because I wasn't prepared for that. I was just like, oh, mom's sick. But my mother had beaten breast cancer, had a mastectomy, went into remission for 6 years. And my mother was a beast. She was King Kong to me in the sense of that nothing is stronger, bigger, bolder than her. So the fact that she had already beat it once, I was like, oh, okay, we did this before. We do it again. And I just, still being a young person at 23, I didn't realize that how cancer works fully, or even how, to the extent of how sick she was, because I wasn't physically there. I was still in DC. Then fast forward to my dad, and he passed away. It was, he had a massive heart attack, and we were in Atlanta for the Final Four.
Wow.
And basically a very traumatic experience. We're like walking back from dinner. He literally collapsed and gasped for air and like kind of fell on me. So for me, it was just, and we were out of town, and then eventually throughout the night, he eventually passed away. So I was never really taught to kind of how to live in a pause. You pick up, you move on. And because my mom was such this strong personality, she was the center of our family. Like, she told all of us what to do,
Right.
like including my dad.
Oh, I wonder where you get it from.
Right, exactly. So when she passed away, it was like, okay, well, now you have to tell everybody what to do. You know what I mean? And even the way that my relationship changed with my dad, the way that my relationship changed with my sister, it became, like my dad and I became more best friends at some point. Our relationship very quickly changed more from father to daughter to kind of like partners in this figuring it out type of thing.
You.
And then just stuff that he didn't know, how to manage the household and things like that. And my mom worked full time. She was a PhD in education. To give you some context, my mother was offered, she was working towards her PhD when she got sick, the second time. And from the time that the cancer came back and she found it until the time she passed away was less than a year. She was working towards her PhD, and she was offered an honorary degree. She'd done so much work. She was heavily involved in the Black Women's Educational Alliance. She was an AKA. She just had done so much work. They were like, listen, there you go, have the thing. And she refused it. She submitted her coursework for her final thesis and everything to get the degree for her PhD. And after she submitted it, she passed away 3 days later. So she didn't even recognize that she had gotten it.
Wow.
Her degree or her PhD was presented at her funeral by the dean of the school.
Wow.
So just to show you like the kind of resilience that I came from. Mind you, I'm biracial. My father is Italian. My mother was Black. I was born in 1978. That still wasn't a super common thing. My parents are from Philly. So just people who were just that strong in their resilience is the stock that I come from. And then it's like you pick it up, and I was never taught how to not push forward, and just keep going. And then after my dad passed, my sister was very pregnant at the time. She lived far away. She'd already moved away to Indianapolis. I was kind of an island. I got into a relationship, and I was very heavily invested in that relationship. And then a couple years later, that ended. And now it's like I have had people pass away. I've had jobs that were very important to me end kind of abruptly. I've had relationships that were very important to me end kind of abruptly. You figure out that if I'm going to continue to live in this world, I have to survive beyond those losses. And that's a gift and a curse, right? So it's like, okay, I'm resilient and I can keep going. But it also kind of creates a very surface kind of way that maybe you interact with people, and you don't even mean it intentionally. So I'll say, like, everybody knows me. I have a whole bunch of friends, and they're genuinely my friends.
She really does know everyone.
They're genuinely my friends. But for me, sometimes it's kind of like hard to maybe and I don't even realize this. And then other people will express it to me. It's hard for me to maybe connect on the same level that they do because there's a slight detachment, I think, that comes innately with the circumstances of my life.
Amen. I'm sorry, this is not church. My bad. Amen. Hallelujah. No, you nailed it right there. And we had this discussion like really in like small detail, and you fleshed it out, like you answered all the questions that I would have asked, because that detachment of like, we talk about like if someone's like, you weren't there for me, and you're like, I was. And like they really are genuinely hurt, but it makes sense. Just, I mean, you are very strong and resilient, but it's like, all right, we haven't moved on from this yet. Okay. Like, let's move on.
And it works but vice versa. I don't really have those expectations of other people. So sometimes it's a little confusing of me when they have those expectations of me, and I've, it's not even something you can necessarily work on because I think, I'm genuine in my approach. I love my friends dearly, but my expectation, again, like I said, my expectations towards them is minimal because I just don't have expectations of anybody, even including myself, beyond we just can't control everything. Things are going to happen. Things are going to change, and you just kind of have to roll with it. So I try to be as understanding as I can when other people have these human attachments and these human expectations that I've kind of had to move past.
You feel that they just don't like exist, or you feel that maybe they just didn't have a chance to develop them, or
they've obviously been developed. I have had a mild codependency with my my sister and my niece and my nephew, and like breaking my neck to try to be at everything and participate in everything. And
I can see how you think that, but it's because you guys are like, oh, like you all you got, so you have that, that family structure. So it's different when, I'm like, I'm going to the Poconos again, and I don't want to go with all these family members. And, it's different because you guys are like mom, dad, sister, cousin, and like all in one. So it makes sense. And on top of the fact that what you just said is like you turned into your mom at the tender 23. Like 23, we were still doing all types of ridiculous stuff in DC Live and,
oh yeah,
and doing all types of crazy things. And to already, okay, I'm Brazilian, I'm strong, but then have to grow up at 23 and be like, I'm taking care of everyone and a dad, and
and go home every weekend to clean up, to do things, and to fight with him about using the your body wash rag as a dish rag, or the thing you use to change your car oil. Like, why? Like, you never did that. All right, I assumed you never did that when mom was alive. Why do you think you can do that now?
Right.
Like, you still can't do that. Like, literally going to Walmart, buying new wash rags, like, for the body. Like,
but the funny thing
because of all the many creative, ridiculous, nonsensical ways he would use them, none of which were on his body.
Which is crazy, because if your mom's like, she's working and doing all of this and still has time to like, do these things for him that he doesn't even know about, it makes so much sense why you are so strong. And also like, you are like this with your friends, even though, you mentioned like, I may not understand some of these, connections people or expectations people have for me, but you do so much for people naturally. And it's just like your instinct. Like, if we go out, Heather has coordinated the coordinates of where we are going, who is at the door, who do we know at the party, where we're going next, what we are you wearing that's kind of not part of what we're wearing today, but that's okay. That's cool. If you want to do that, I'm just letting you know that you probably look stupid. Like,
there may or may not be a grid. There may or may not be a grid attached.
Oh, it is an actual grid. And then she's like,
from the group chat, it's a Google Drive.
Yeah. Oh, it's a chat, it's everything. So it just makes perfect sense to,
That's control, though.
It's control.
You get that, right?
Oh, I know that. Okay. I'm your friend. but it makes sense. It makes me even like, we're doing this podcast, but makes me even have a whole new respect and love for you, because, we talk, your parents died, but sometimes we don't have those deeper conversations. And I also stress people listening to me right now to have deeper conversations with your friends, because it's like this moment right now was like, Heather is always so bossy, she gets things done, but why? Why do you do that? It's because you've had to, this is what you saw growing up and this is what you had to do. So going into relationships and stuff, that's so much heavier. We're going to like the love aspects of relationship. Because so you saw this dynamic between your mom and your dad, and you also now,
Right.
you have.
Because my parents were together until my mother passed away.
Right.
And they were married, and it was just a very small nuclear family as my mom, my dad, my sister, and myself. And my parents were together my whole life. They were married and they were together my sister's whole life until my mom passed away. And then my dad never remarried, and then he passed away. So it's interesting then in current dating world and even my mindset on things. And I think my sisters too a little bit. We had a very traditional upbringing, or maybe I shouldn't even call it traditional, but a very idealistic in many people's eyes upbringing.
So share with us how you think about relationships and love now.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a constant journey of things that, and I work really hard to focus on tuning into what I really want versus what I think I should want, and what kind of like the rules are and what society says that are the accomplishments. And that just goes full circle. It's not just in relationships, but it's in accomplishments. Like, obviously I've been in my career as long as I have, and I've done it at different levels. Like, and I know all these people, and I'm able to accomplish all these things. I should be executive director of this and that, but that doesn't necessarily afford me the creativity or the responsibility or the coin. That title. I know people with that title who make a fraction of what I make, right? Or have the access or have the creative say so that I do. So I implore everybody to kind of really hone into what it is you want, negating completely what you see on social media, what maybe your parents have told you, what you saw in your own home, what you think is the right way to go. I'm super reluctant to say this, but even religion, listen to your spirit and your intuition and your guides and what really, really resonates for you. I came from a 2-parent household in a very small knit community where you got married, you had kids, you got the job, you went to the job every day, you retired, you got the pension, you had the grandkids. And then my life kind of flipped upside down. And it was a blessing for me in that it let me know that that didn't have to be my story. And I think I started to know pretty early on that I didn't want to have kids young, but that I did maybe want to have kids, and that I maybe wanted to do it older. And that maybe I didn't need to be married, and that maybe I didn't ever have to get married, and that it was all okay. I don't look at buying a house, owning a car, starting a business, traveling to certain places, having a certain amount of money invested, having kids, getting married. I don't look at these check marks as equation to my success or my happiness. Okay. So for me, I've had boyfriends. I've had amazing boyfriends. I've had really shitty, terrible boyfriends. I've been an amazing girlfriend. I've been a really shitty, terrible girlfriend. People are human, but I've grown so much that I've learned that the way I interact and the way I connect with people is to add some sort of value. And the way that they connect with me is to add some sort of value. I'm not here to control you. You're not here to control me. I'm not here to be your happiness. You're not here to be mine. I think we present ourselves as full humans, and then you interact with each other. And as long as that interaction is fulfilling and rewarding, and sometimes they'll be challenging, and that's okay too. We don't discard people. But I interact with you on the level that my spirit can handle. And I say this to you all the time. I'm like, maintaining my sanity is a daily thing, because like the forces of life will easily take you off kilter, right? So if you're fucking crazy, if you coming at me with that crazy on a daily basis, I don't have any problem walking away from that relationship, no matter what it is. And that's just because I can't be a productive individual, human to myself. I can't do my job well. I can't be a good friend to the rest of all of my friends if any relationship.
If I'm managing your crazy.
If I am continuously managing your crazy, that doesn't mean I don't love you, doesn't mean I don't support you, doesn't mean I won't help you in all the ways that I can. But when that turns around to me, then I have to take a step back. And I implore anybody to do that to anybody. Mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, aunt, boyfriend, girlfriend. And again, I value relationships. I value marriage. I value friendships. Those are all important things. But your sanity is most paramount. It is. It's just in your own health and well-being. And I think that, and I apologize to anybody who my crazy has infringed on, because I've been there. And I've never had therapy, formalized therapy. I see the value in it, and I've never actually done it. And maybe hopefully I'll get there one day.
I was about to say, well, do you want to?
I do. I see the value in it. But I recognize where I put my grief onto people in a way that I didn't even realize. I recognize where losing my parents and the loss of my dad, who had become my best friend, created these attachment issues and abandonment issues, to where I clung so heavily and hard and put a lot of weight on a relationship, like, a romantic relationship, where I put a lot of weight on my sister, just in a lot of expectation so it's even more than the loss of those people. It's just recognizing in myself how I became those things in my relationships allowed me to kind of detach from other people and not have so much expectations of them.
Interesting. So because it's almost like this really very interesting cocktail, because it's so strong at the same time, but like you have this free spirit about you, but also a sense of control, So it's an interesting paradigm to, like, because you're like, you know what you want, you're very like focused, but also it's like, it's the Libra in you. Holy cow. Yes.
The balance. With Scorpion tendencies.
It's like, you know what? I don't want to be super religious, or I don't need to be married, but I need
happens.
This. Yeah. So, but having that detachment as far as relationships are concerned. So you don't need to be married. Do you want to date? You want to have kids? Where are you at now? Well, how do you feel?
I'm dating now.
What are you certain about with dating? Because it seems like, you are good with the way what life brings to you, but what would you strive for outside of happiness and sanity?
I think I'm really good in a relationship. I think I'm really productive in a relationship. I think I like the connection. I like the security to a certain degree. I think I'm always really good in that space. But I am really, really, really targeted and succinct in what I want. And I don't feel the need to be in a relationship. So when I say that is like when that perfect alignment of all the things that really make me feel aligned and good, and my spirits, my vibrations rising with this person and things make sense, then I'll be in a committed relationship, and that's great. But
you just need to feel good.
No, like I said, where there's alignment, you know what I mean? And obviously, relations aren't easy. I've not been in one that was perfect or easy. And that's just what it is. They're all like that, whether it's at work or in your friendships or in romantic relationships. So, but for me, I'm perfectly fine being single. Like, I'm happy in relationships. I'm happy being single. I present as a full individual, a whole human. So when you get in a relationship with me, I feel like at this point, then there's less of the neediness. There's less of the codependency. There's less of the expectation. I have really grown past the control. And I guess I think I saw some of that in my household too. It's like, I don't need to tell you what to do, where to do, how to do, who to do it. Like that, none of those things are important to me as they once were. And they were important before, because I think I felt like if I managed the variables, I could manage the hurt or the pain of not knowing what was coming. And now I feel like I'm so settled in what I have and the value that I find just purely within myself, then everything else is an experience. So that's why I feel like we experience individuals and we have the pleasure of enjoying and interacting with them, but we don't own them. And I don't want to be owned, and I don't want to own anybody else at this point. So would I like to be in a relationship? Maybe. if it that's what I'm saying. Like I have girlfriends and people that I really respect, and I see them and I'm like, oh, why are you in that relationship? And guy friends too. And like guy friends, like, homie, why? Like you could be so happy. Why are you entertaining so much stress and anxiety? And this just looks like a horrible fit for the sake of being in a relationship. And that's not important to me. Like I have such a great full life, and I have plenty of good times, and I don't suffer from a lack of male attention. You know, when I want to engage with somebody, I engage with them. When I have sex, I have sex. So I don't need to be in a relationship. At the same time, do I value them? Do I feel like I could benefit from them? The right one? Absolutely. So I'm not opposed to it. And that's a weird thing. Like, I'm sure you get that too. It's like, oh my God, like I've been told by so many people, you're so great. Why are you single? I've chosen to be single, obviously. I mean, you could literally throw a rock and fall into a relationship, right? But when you know exactly who you are, you know exactly what you want, you know exactly what you're willing to make those type of compromises for, because relationships are compromise.
Absolutely.
And I want to, and I want to be a good girlfriend. I want to be a good partner. I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good mother. So I didn't do any of those things until it felt right. And prior to now, it didn't feel right to be a mom for me. I had a business to start. I had the world to see. I had fun to have. I had 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. mornings to roll in and not have to worry
and
about.
I have been on some of those mornings.
Yeah. So prior to today, it just wasn't my priority. And I'm glad, because now I feel like if I were to have a child today, if I was to get married today, I would be a much, much better mother and a much better wife and a much better girlfriend, much better partner than I would have been before.
So you want it, but you don't need it. That's basically in a nutshell.
I'm open to it. I can't say that I want it, because I've seen really difficult motherhood situations.
Oh my.
I've seen really difficult marriages. I don't want that. So I don't necessarily know that I want marriage. I don't necessarily know that I want to be a mother. I'm open to it. And if it comes and it feels like there's an alignment, obviously I'm willing to do the work where the relationship is valuable, you know, in any relationship. And I say, you know this about me, you know, like sometimes you have to take a step back. You may have to sit things down.
Oh, yes.
But you know when somebody's right, when somebody's good for you, when a circumstance.
Not all the time, but you know, yeah, okay, sometimes.
You feel it, you know, and even if you put that person down and you got to pick them back up later, there's been times where I was not a good person.
Listen, that's actually the best thing to do. I think you should,
But I have for a second said this. I have said this. You don't discard good people. Sometimes you are in a season and you have to let people go through that season. And if your spirit's strong enough, and sometimes it is for whatever they're going through, my spirit's strong enough to weather that with them. And sometimes it's not.
Expand that. You don't discard good people.
You don't discard good people.
So, because there's a lot of trash guys, and you know, I use that word. And
I hate that you do that.
And I know, and I don't care. But because I'm always like, he's trash. And she's like,
girl, you have discarded whole parties.
First of all.
Whole neighborhoods, restaurants.
Wait. I said, guys with the letter R.
Anybody whose name start with R. I kind of felt like that way about certain letters at one time.
Yeah, like, R's? Nope, sorry, just don't do it.
Oh yeah, like there would be certain places, like certain neighborhoods, certain songs, smells, like I mean, like, but here's the thing. I love men. I love Black men. I love, you know, I think there's value in men. Like, you know, like we can't say that men are trash. Come on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a joke, but you are right. That's why I wanted to talk about you can't discard good people, because I think there are some guys that just make really bad judgments. And there's a guy and a couple guys, you know, like for instance, you know, we were out and you're like, I hate him. You're supposed to hate him. And I'm like, he was a really good guy. He was trash to me. I think that he was just not a good guy for me. But as a friend, as a person now, this guy literally has like, let me use his house to sleep when no one was there, the doorman, so I can like sleep during like a funeral, like do stuff that's like that most people just would not do. I don't care about your face right now. Okay, listen to my story. That I think that this guy is a nice friend. I would never date this guy again. I wouldn't go on a date with him. He doesn't want to date me, but I think he's a good person. So when you say don't discard good people, give me an example, because she's looking at me crazy.
No. Well, first of all, I think there's value in everyone. Even the worst human you can think of.
Yeah.
There's value in them. And I don't have any enemies. You know what I mean? There's maybe people who I don't all the way care for. Maybe they don't all the way care for me. There's definitely people who I've lost touch with and, good, bad, or ugly. But I don't hate anybody. And that's what I'm saying. When I hear you talk about me, you're like, I hate them. And I don't hate anybody. And I can honestly say, I don't think anybody's walking around that hates me.
Right.
Maybe one or two. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but I think in that we have that same thing about us. Like we don't have a lot of people that hate us, But yeah, they're probably like two guys. We can probably count just two.
I mean,
maybe 1.5,
maybe
3. Anyway,
but you're very passionate. So when you're like,
yes,
and I'm pretty loyal. So I'm like, I was like, okay, well, we hate him. So when we see him, it's because we hate him because he did the thing.
I'm
and
like,
now
no, we're fine today.
And
absolutely,
then
we're okay.
When you've told me you hate him and you've given me all the reasons to hate him, and I've now invested with you in hating him, and then he shows up at the party and you hugging and kikiing and laughing, and I have to throw limes and ice at you.
Is that
multiple? I was like, we hate him. Stupid. And now I'm pissed.
I'm like, I don't care about him. It's just a giggle.
That was a 15-minute conversation. And mind you, I'm always...
Okay, next topic. Just kidding.
I'm usually en route. Like, can we get to where we was going? I gotta stop and talk to that person with the R who we don't like.
It's so many R's.
R, G, O, L,
M, N, O, P, Q. Anyway, but it just goes to show, like, discarding good people. Like I'm a person who, which could be the gift and the curse. Like it's very few people that I do not talk to anymore. Even though the R's I'm joking about, like I may be able to call them and be like, hey, something happened. Can you help me? Which I don't want to, but I'm a big person that doesn't discard people, but you also have to know how to put them in pockets. And the thing that makes you in a better position is that you can detach yourself a little bit easier, where I know for me, I'm discarding you and I'm okay and I've moved on, but in the back of my head or something, maybe we're like, you know what, if they just had acted right when we were dating each other, maybe they were different, opposed to like, no, they really are still
a
not
trash individual
for dating me. They may be good for other people. So I believe
I'm a full supporter of that. Like there's plenty of people that I've dated who are now like my friends. Like, and I have very strong, very healthy platonic male friendships. I have a lot of guy friends who are just my guy friends, and I value those as much as I value my relationships with my female friends. So and there's a couple of guys that maybe we dated and it didn't work out. But now I don't, you're not trash. It didn't work out for us. You're my friend. I value you. And I support you in all the things that you want to do. But that's the thing, is all of the rules that have been put on us that aren't really natural human things. Like, okay, so religion teaches us that we're supposed to get married and that you're supposed to be monogamous and that you're supposed to find your soulmate and the one and get with them and be with them forever and not ever, leave that person. And that's just not the reality. It's not necessarily, I don't know that it's even human nature. I don't think that it is. I think it's actually not quite human nature to be in these lifelong monogamous relationships. However, I do see value in them, and I've seen them work really well and create amazing things together. So for me, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that people enter your life and that you encounter them as spirits. And if you were to take away all of the exterior things, the man of it, the woman of it, the job, all of the exterior, and you just encounter somebody as a spirit and how they made you feel and what they brought to your life. And maybe that's a forever thing, or maybe that's a temporary thing. But if your spirit repels it and you instantly feel bad and heavy and negative in their presence, and that's an ongoing thing, then that doesn't mean you're supposed to be around that person, man, woman, or child, period.
So are they trash then? No? Okay.
No. No. They're in a season. They need
that's true.
Or they're just something in you.
Because even the worst boyfriend, I we know who that is, and like it was maybe not. Yeah. Okay. So like it just was in a bad season, and truly like probably a really good person, and I believe is a good person, just not to be around me.
Yeah.
Because even though. It's two parts, because you're like, wow, maybe the spirit was good at one point, but when that damage comes around, sometimes you can't really prepare and you can't see them for that. Like, oh, they probably
And then there's healing, right?
Right.
And I've experienced this myself. I was a good person. I was still a good girlfriend and a good individual, but there was pieces of me at that time that didn't jive with pieces of him at that time. And even though we were, whoever it is, we were in a relationship and it may have been working, so to speak, because there was love there or appreciation there. But until you experience that healing and that growth, then maybe you can't move forward with that person, or you can't even find a common ground.
Got you. I feel you. Look at us cracking the codes and being all responsible. So we have to go into the health aspects of it. You talked about not going to a therapist.
But I do see value in it. And it's something that
What are you doing to take care of Heather's health right now? Your mental health, your physical state, your everything. Like, the point of this podcast is balance. So I know it's a lot of career focused on you right now. Like, what are you doing to shift some energy, or do you want to shift the energy towards some of your actual mental, physical, overall health right now? How are you feeling about that?
So when you first started the podcast and you were talking about it a little bit, and just even today when you were like kind of addressing that, I don't bucket things. So I feel like I'm kind of doing everything simultaneously, and I really pay attention to how I feel. So I'm not one of those people that sacrifices everything for my career at this time because this is my goal. Nope. I just started. If I feel like I need to take a day because I want to sleep, I'm going to take a day and sleep. If I feel like I want to take a day because I feel like it's important for me to go connect with my family, or if there's an opportunity for me to travel somewhere and that means I got to work remotely and we had to figure it out, and being afraid that maybe I'll lose my job or, this great position that I don't live that way anymore. And I also don't miss opportunities to get together with my friends because, I got to go to the gym every night. I don't do things I don't like to do. I don't like to run. Why am I doing that? But I really like to hike because if I am physical, I like to be physical and I like to be active, and I'm very competitive too. So now if you say, let's go ahead and climb up that mountain, you better believe we're going to climb that mountain. And I'm going to see if I can get up there.
That's the control part.
I'm going to see, can I get up there for you? I'm an athlete. I was an athlete all through high school, and my sister will tell you, I'll get out there and I'll have all sorts of challenges and obstacle courses and soccer. And then with my niece and my nephew.
You was one of those sisters growing up, like, we're going to make this.
No, this was like last month with my niece and my nephew. And then I hit my brother-in-law will set up little, obstacle courses, and I'll work out with them. I'm not opposed to working out. I'm very strong. I'm very healthy. I've never been a small girl. I'm very proud of my body. I like who I am. And my version of healthy may not look like someone else's version of healthy.
So what is your version of healthy as far as not looking wise, feeling, look, all of that? Like, what is healthy to you?
When I walk around and when my body feels heavy, when my body feels tired, when my body feels if I'm sluggish or just those things, I pay attention and I know what that feels like for me. And for some people, they feel good when they're 120 pounds. For some people, they feel good when they're 320 pounds. And I know that that's an outer package. And we've also been taught that if a package looks a certain way, it's unhealthy. And if it looks another way, it is healthy. And I had parents who didn't smoke, didn't drink, never did any drugs, didn't really stay out late, never partied, went to church. My dad grew up in the church, and they died young. My grandmother lived to be 94 years old. She smoked. She gambled. She chain smoked. You know what I mean? And ate Italian food. And, you know, if it wasn't for that accident and that accessoride, you know.
Oh, damn.
She didn't die that way. But we think it may have jobbed some things in there. But that just goes to tell you, like, you know, you have to pay attention to your body. And I've been vegan and I know how that felt. I've done keto, which is a high fat and protein, you know, and I know how that felt. You have to listen to what feels good to you. And like, listen, I've had a trainer and work out, and I enjoy that. I like being physical. I like moving my body, but I don't like doing things that don't feel good to me because it's what someone says is how you are healthy, you know? And again, I don't sacrifice any one aspect of my life for the other. To me,
there's also like actual health aspects to some things, like fatty food. You're going to.
I disagree. I disagree.
You can physically die faster. No,
I disagree.
Okay,
I disagree. Because you know, there's research to support that sugar is what causes the clogged arteries and not actual fats. But
I'm talking about like those type of things. Like if it's sugar, if it's fats, there is some health aspects that we do need to be aware of. No,
it depends.
Okay,
it depends on
because like ramen noodles like is got like a crap load of sodium and like things like that.
Yet Asians are traditionally healthier than the rest of us, right? So
I think ramen noodles in a packet. It's like,
there's sodium involved in that. Like, you know,
I love me.
You're
some
talking
ramen.
about oodles and noodles. You're talking about 10 for 10. 10 for $1. Yeah. Okay. Again,
I love ramen.
Again, and I challenge you in that way because I think that we believe what we're told, right? So you're not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. I haven't done a panel of tests on myself. I know what feels good, right? So I know that if I am a vegan, but I'm eating a bunch of candy, at some point, I know I feel bad. But I know that I don't feel bad if I'm eating meat and fat. I know that I can eat bacon and it don't make me feel bad, no matter what anybody else's experience, religion, science has told me. Again, my experiences have been different of what I believe. So I think for me, everything in moderation, pay attention to your body, eat as much real food as you can. Now that I do believe we're living things. So for example, plants grow from the carcass of animals, right? So when you say, it's you can only be a vegan. Okay, well the soil that was fertilized by the carcass of the animal, did you realize that now that your fruit grew in that? So it's all relative to how you think. I do think that eating as much whole living things as you can is the best possible way to live. But that's what makes me feel good.
I like this, living by her own rules. Heather Romantini, living by her own rules. That's really, we done got the whole topic down pat. I mean, it's good because, you know, we agree to disagree. Like I'm a person who, I mean, she is a Libra and she's literally went every question in the middle, which is like crazy because she's so strong, but yet she's like, but I believe in this. But I love that because it makes you see both sides of the story, but also it's just a different point of view and like living by your own rules and your own expectations and what works for you. That's what makes you feel balanced, you know? So at the end of every show, we do an emoji. And you love Dave East and you love Nas. So I had to pick which one because
there's no picking.
There's no oh Lord. I wish we could tell the Nas story, but you know, we gotta wrap it up.
I mean we should okay. Nas DM'd me, y'all. We go together.
I was with her and I was like, wait, it was you wanna tell the story?
Nas DM'd me. We go together.
They have a photo at Essence Festival, and I guess he's like said hi or something, or I don't know, but it was actual like a DM like hi. And we were together and she was just obnoxious for the whole day. She was literally like, do not look at me.
Don't talk to me.
to me. And I just had to say, you know what? You're right. I'm not worthy of you.
Anybody that knows me knows that's my favorite rapper. I've had this affinity for him for a million years. I've met him many times. I've worked with him, and every time it's like the first time I'm like, and then he DM'd me, and now you're lucky I'm talking to you.
We're not worthy. Okay, so we're gonna start. We go with your career. You have to give. I think Nas doesn't have a lot of faces, so it's like happier Nas or sad Nas. So as far as your career, I mean, I feel like it's going really great right now. Which Nas emoji that will probably come across the screen when we do this YouTube video, what would it be? The happy or the like sad?
The one that's like this, like you know that emoji that is like, you know, like the smirk, the side smirk, like
the side smirk.
How you doing? That's that side smirk. Like I work in a very male, older white male dominated industry. I am a young looking Black female who has pushed and pushed and pushed in a sports industry and pushed those doors and pushed those doors and pushed and shown my value. So that haha, I got it smirk. Like now you see it. That's if there was a Nas emoji for that.
The best thing is that I actually gave her the rules, and she deboed me and said, I'm going to do my own emoji.
I don't even know that many Nas emojis. Like if
I was going to find it.
Oh, okay. Well then,
no. Now
where he's giving you that eye.
I usually do give it 3, but I usually do.
If he's showing the chip tooth, even better. like so you got to really dig.
We're adding that one.
Why can't we use the monkey? Everything I do is that white monkey. Every feeling I've ever had.
The white monkey only has the one emotion. All right. So, career relationships. How do you feel about that? Are we giving it the same smirk?
No, that smile, that big happy smile where he's got that like twinkle in his eye. Even if it's a closed mouth smile.
You feeling good?
It's high vibrational. Like
you hiding a whole nigga somewhere that I don't know about? Bitch, yes you are. Wait a sec.
No.
I'm gonna go in the whole group chat and be like,
no, I'm single. But I feel that good.
Last time a nigga said they was single, I saw them like last week with a whole bit.
I feel good, and I'm positive about the future. I feel like something's coming. You know, you just feel stuff. You know,
okay.
so
new moon.
Yeah, I feel good about relationships.
Okay, and your health. How do you feel? How do you feel right now? How's your mind? How's your body? Are you feeling heavy? You feeling light? You feeling like you could do a little bit more? You feel like you need a little meat? You need a little cheese? You need a little...
Sis is a little tired. This first 2 weeks of this new job has me exhausted and, you know, just up and just because I want to do good, right? You know, like I want to... All the hopes that I see in people's eyes for what they want from me and from my role, because it's kind of new in the way we were creating it. I just want to live up to all those things for me, you know? So it's probably the Nas emoji that would be like...
you going back to the smirk or you going to sad one?
I think it's like him walking through Belly, you know, with Mary playing in the background, where it's like, you know, like there's an air of real strong confidence, like I got this, and he's walking through, but there's also some tentative, like I'm not home, I don't really know what's gonna happen, but it's exciting and the energy's high. Yeah, that.
I love how sis straight up made all her own emojis, but it goes and it's fine. But only Heather would do it. If anyone's gonna do it, because she's living by her own rules, and I love it. Heather also has a podcast too.
I do.
Outside of being, you know, senior talent producers at these amazing companies, where can we find you? Tell us about, you know, more.
Yeah, so I'm 1/3 of the Get Off the Bandwagon podcast. It's Get Off the Bandwagon. It's Bandwagon, BNDWGN, no vowels. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We have Instagram. We're on, I think, SoundCloud at this point. We're a baby hiatus, so but it's sports and pop culture. I'm the actually female voice of sports, so it's good times. I think if you're into sports, come check us out.
Living in purpose, sports, entertainment, all that. Anyway, Heather, thank you for coming on the show. We had a real moment. I was like, I wanted to stop the cameras and be like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. I just need to hug you. But One, it's hot because we turn the air conditioner
It's
off
hot in
when
here.
I
But I
tape.
also feel like a little bit of moist, it's like a little.
Yeah, on top of this is my good vacation hair, so I need it to
sweat it
look
out.
super cute. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in to Music Men in My Mental. I'm DeVone. Thank you, Heather Romantini, once again. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe on YouTube at Music Men in My Mental on Instagram and Twitter. And you know where to find us? Spotify, just Apple Podcasts, everything. Okay, have a great day, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.